They were serving filet mignon under gold-plated heat lamps while I stood there holding her clutch. My name's Aaron. I'm 42. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. That night, I was just the husband. The banquet hall at Pine Ridge Golf Club looked like something out of a damn movie. Polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers, soft jazz humming in the background. All eyes were on her, Elise, the new executive director of Tri-South Futures, a nonprofit that practically ran on donor ego and overpriced wine. She worked the room like she owned it, hair pinned up, champagne glass in hand, laughing like she belonged, and she did. 10 years ago, she was answering phones at the front desk. Now she was posing for pictures with board members in the same emerald dress I bought her last anniversary. I had spent the last decade covering late shifts at the plant, skipping vacations, packing school lunches, and playing chauffeur for 2 kids while she chased purpose. I never resented it, not really. I figured we were a team, so I grabbed her drink from the bar, her favorite, gin and soda with a lemon, and wove through the sea of suits and perfume to bring it to her. "Hey," I said, offering the glass. "You did it. I'm proud of you." She smiled, tight and fake. I leaned in to give her a quick kiss. Nothing dramatic, just one of those proud, supportive husband moments. She stiffened like I was handing her a lawsuit. "Let's not make this about appearances," she said, voice low but sharp. Then louder, just enough for the people around us to hear. "People might think I got here because of you." It hit me like a punch to the ribs. The couple next to us went quiet. Someone coughed. A woman in a red dress actually turned away to hide her smirk. I pulled back, hands still holding her drink. She didn't take it, just smiled and turned back to her circle like I'd never even walked up. I stood there like an idiot, surrounded by people who now saw me as some clingy, insecure husband trying to ride her spotlight. I could feel the heat crawling up my neck. No one said anything, but the message was clear. I didn't belong in that picture. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? I walked back to my table without a word. Her voice rang out across the room as she toasted her own climb. No mention of me, of course. She wanted to shine alone? Fine. I'd make sure she got exactly that. I pushed back from the table, heart thudding, jaw tight, and made my way across the room. They were lining up near the podium, board chair, VP of operations, some donor with a fat checkbook and a fake smile. Toasts were coming. Speeches about resilience and vision. The kind of crap that makes people feel good while ignoring what actually got them there. I didn't wait for an opening. I walked straight up the steps, past the stunned MC, and grabbed the mic out of his hands like I owned the place. A few people laughed nervously, thinking it was a surprise tribute. It wasn't. I didn't look at Elise. I looked at the crowd, full of people who just watched her treat me like baggage. "My wife," I started, letting that sink in for a second, "doesn't need a man's support, and I don't need a wife's disrespect." The room went still. Forks dropped. Glasses paused midair. "She's officially promoted?" I paused, making sure my voice didn't shake. "To being single." A few gasped. Someone coughed. Then, in the back, slow, sarcastic clapping. And then more. It wasn't a standing ovation, but it was enough. Enough to drown out her stunned silence. Enough to make her lower her champagne glass and blink like she'd been slapped. She didn't move. Not 1 inch. I handed the mic back to the stunned MC, gave him a nod, and walked down the steps like I just clocked out for the day. Behind me, the buzz took over, whispers turning to murmurs, murmurs turning to full-blown gossip. I didn't rush. I walked right through the crowd, shoulders square, eyes straight. Let em look. I hit the parking lot and reached the car just as she came charging out the doors. "Aaron, what the hell was that?" she snapped, heels clacking across the concrete. I unlocked the car without looking at her. "You humiliated me," she barked, voice cracking. "In front of donors. In front of my team." I turned, leaned against the driver's side door, arms crossed. "You didn't want to be associated with me?" I said, calm and cold. "Congratulations. Now you're not." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Just the stunned, gasping silence, like someone who slipped off the edge and didn't see it coming. She stood there shaking, one hand clenched around that same untouched glass of gin and soda I brought her earlier. "You just threw away everything?" she whispered, barely holding it together. "For what? Your pride." I stared her down. "No. For my dignity." She blinked hard, like that word stung more than anything else I'd said. "Before you ask," I added, pulling out the keys, "yes, I meant every word. You couldn't wait till we got home? Talk like adults? Handle this privately?" I laughed once, bitter and short. "You made your statement in front of everyone. I just responded the same way." I opened the car door. She took a step back, still stunned, still trying to find a version of the night where she didn't look like the villain. But there wasn't one. Not anymore. She reached out like she might try to stop me. I got in, slammed the door shut, and rolled the window halfway down. "I hope your speech goes well," I said. "Just remember not to make it about appearances." Then I started the engine and pulled out, leaving her standing there, surrounded by people who now had a different story to whisper about. She wanted to shine alone. Now she could glow in the dark all by herself. She got home maybe 20 minutes after I did. I was sitting at the kitchen table, still in my button-down, staring at a bottle of bourbon I hadn't even opened. She walked in quiet. No heels this time, just soft steps and forced calm. "Erin," she said, setting her purse down like it was fragile. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer, just leaned back and crossed my arms. She pulled out the chair across from me and sat down, all corporate grace and strained politeness. "About tonight, I wasn't trying to disrespect you." I let out a dry laugh. "You could have fooled me." She folded her hands. "I was nervous. There were donors there. Big ones. I was managing a lot of pressure." "Stop." I cut in. "Don't act like this was some heat-of-the-moment thing. You made a choice. You looked me in the face and made me small on purpose." She looked away. "I didn't mean to make you feel that way." "No," I snapped. "You meant to make sure they didn't feel any doubt about your rise, even if it meant treating me like a damn prop." She kept that cool PR face on. "I've worked really hard to get here. That room was full of people judging every move I made." "And what?" I asked, leaning forward. "You thought a kiss from your husband would ruin the illusion?" She stood up then, pacing like she was rehearsing for a crisis meeting. "It's not about that. It's about perception. Professional boundaries matter in rooms like that." "Boundaries?" I scoffed. "You were drinking champagne with the VP and hugging donors like they were family. That's different." "Is it?" I stood too, not yelling, just not backing down. "What about the years I worked doubles so you could finish your degree? The interviews I coached you through? The weekends I stayed home while you networked, traveled, climbed? That was our arrangement," she snapped. "You supported me. I thought we agreed." "No," I said flatly. "You decided. I backed you because I believed in us." She crossed her arms, tension tightening her shoulders. "You think blowing up my promotion in front of my team helped anything?" "They applauded," I said. "Go ask your assistant. Go ask that redhead from marketing. They weren't clapping for me being petty. They were clapping because they've watched you erase everything but your own name." "That's not fair," she said, voice rising. "You don't understand what I've had to navigate." "No." I cut her off again. "You don't understand what it cost me to stay in your shadow while pretending it was ours." Her expression cracked for the first time. Just a flicker, something real behind the armor. "You're sabotaging me," she whispered. "You know that, right? After everything I've built." I stepped back, shaking my head. "I built your career while mine sat on the shelf. Don't get it twisted." She didn't say anything, just stood there, lips pressed tight, holding back whatever spin she was planning next. I turned toward the hallway, done. "You made a statement," I said over my shoulder. "I just responded." And I left her standing in that spotless kitchen, speechless for once in her life. She didn't follow me down the hall that night. Didn't sleep in the bed either. Next morning, I found her on the couch in her silk robe, typing something on her phone like she was already managing the optics. By Tuesday, the cracks were showing. She was still leaving for work with perfect hair and a stainless steel coffee mug, but she came home later and quieter. Her heels didn't hit the tile with the same click. She started avoiding eye contact when I was making dinner or folding laundry. I didn't press her. I just watched. On Wednesday, I overheard her on the phone in the den. "No, I didn't see it coming," she said. Pause. "Yes, of course, we're handling it." Her voice had that forced calm edge she used with reporters and angry donors. After she hung up, she came into the kitchen while I was scrubbing a pan. "Hey," she said like we were starting over. "How was your day?" "Fine," I said without looking up. "Yours?" She hesitated. "Busy. A lot of follow-up from the banquet." Some people had questions. I dried my hands and leaned on the counter. "Yeah? Like what?" She gave me this tight smile. "Oh, just people checking in. Wondering how we're doing. They worried about us? Or your image?" She blinked. "Does it matter?" I didn't answer. I just went back to cleaning up. That Friday, her assistant, Lindsay, dropped off some files while Elise was in a Zoom meeting. She lingered by the front door. "For what it's worth," she said, glancing down the hall. "A lot of us thought it needed to be said. People saw how much you did behind the scenes." I nodded once. "Thanks." She left fast, like she didn't want to be seen saying it. By Saturday, Elise was trying harder. She ordered takeout from my favorite barbecue place and put on some old playlist like nothing had changed. "You want a beer?" she asked while setting out plates. "No, I'm good." She tried again during dinner. "Remember that cabin in Boone? We should go back sometime. Just get away for a weekend." I took a slow bite of brisket. "You planning on tagging me in the photos? Or cropping me out again?" She froze. "What?" I pulled out my phone, opened her profile, scrolled through post after post of her glowing at fundraisers, press conferences, galas. Dozens of pictures where I'd been the one holding her coat, watching the kids, waiting in the car. And not a single tag, mention, or quote that even hinted I existed. "Every milestone you hit," I said, setting the phone down between us. "You rewrote history like you did it alone." She crossed her arms. "That's not fair. It's just social media motivational content. It's for the audience." I stared at her. "Success tastes better when earned alone? You sure about that?" Her jaw clenched. "That was just a caption." "No," I said, leaning in. "That was the story you've been selling. You're not embarrassed of me. You're embarrassed that you didn't do this without help." She looked away, lips tight. I stood up, grabbed my plate, and walked it to the sink. She sat there in silence, eating slowly like she couldn't even taste the food anymore. She was losing the room at work, at home, online, and she knew it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I just cleaned my plate and left her sitting there, perfectly framed in the glow of her curated, lonely success. She knocked on the bedroom door like it wasn't hers too. I didn't answer, just kept scrolling through emails on my laptop while the ceiling fan hummed overhead. She opened the door slowly and peeked in. "Can I come in?" I shrugged. "You're already halfway." She stepped inside holding her phone like it was a peace offering. "I've been thinking," she said carefully, "about everything, what happened, how it looked. I want to fix it." I didn't say anything. She sat on the edge of the bed. "I could make a post. A real one. Public appreciation. Something that gives credit where it's due." I stared at her. "You think a post fixes this?" She lifted her chin. "It's a start. People follow me. It'd show them that I mattered." I snapped. "After you spent the last 3 years making sure they thought you climbed that ladder solo?" She looked away. "That's not what I meant." I reached over to my nightstand, grabbed my phone, and opened her feed. It took 5 seconds to pull up 3 posts. One about her self-made journey, another thanking strong women who don't wait for permission, and one more, my favorite, about how she built her legacy brick by brick with no handouts and no shortcuts. I handed her the phone. "You didn't just forget me. You erased me." Her face didn't move, but her hand tightened on the phone. I leaned forward. "You could have said, My husband worked overtime so I could get my MBA. You could have said, he passed on his own career so I could chase mine. Hell, you could have just said we instead of I. She took a breath. I was trying to project strength. Independence. You weren't projecting strength, I said. You were projecting distance. You wanted everyone to think you made it despite me. She bit her lip, finally looking like it was sinking in. I stood and grabbed my charger. Every time someone asked how you juggled kids and grad school and full-time work, you smiled and said, hard work and discipline. Never once did you say, I had help, a partner. She looked up at me, quiet for a second, then finally asked, what do you want from me? I stared at her. Honesty, accountability, and maybe an explanation for why I was treated like a burden you had to hide. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I watched the gears turn. Not in her heart, in her head, trying to figure out how to spin it, how to frame it. That was the problem. I let the silence stretch between us before I said it, calm and flat. And if you can't do that, then there's nothing left to fix. I grabbed my phone, walked past her, and left her sitting on the bed, speechless again. Right where she put me for years. The next morning, there was a cappuccino on my nightstand and a sticky note that said, thought you could use this E. She hadn't made me coffee in years. Downstairs, she was flipping pancakes like we were on some marriage retreat. She smiled when I walked in. Counseling, she said, like she just remembered the word. We should try it. I already looked up a few couples therapists. One's even a guy. You might like that. I pulled out a chair. Is this breakfast or damage control? She set the plate in front of me. It's an olive branch. I'm trying. No, I said calm. You're scrambling. She crossed her arms. You keep acting like I never cared about this marriage. I looked her dead in the eye. What role do I even play in your version of it? She blinked. You're my partner. My support. No, I cut in. See, partners get named, credited, respected. What I've been is a silent investor. You took the help, used the time, collected the gains, and rewrote the story without me in it. That's not true, she said fast. You're exaggerating. We built a life together. We raised a family. We did, I said. But you took that life, polished it up, and marketed it like you did it all solo. I was good enough to build it with, but not good enough to show off when the spotlight came. She looked like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. Just this tight, panicked silence. So I gave her the final blow. I met with a lawyer. Her eyes snapped up. What? Last week, I said. I've been documenting everything. The financials, the timeline, the support I gave up. I'm not just walking out blind. She stepped back like I'd slapped her. You're serious? I stood up and pushed the chair in slowly. Dead serious. Wait, Erin, come on. Don't do this. We can figure it out. You don't even know what this is, I said. You're still trying to brand the crisis. Tears welled up, but I didn't flinch. I'd seen that tactic before, emotional theater when logic stopped working. I'm not the enemy here, she said, voice shaking. Maybe not, I said. But you stopped being my teammate a long time ago. She grabbed my arm. Just give me a chance. One real chance. Pulled away. You had 10 years worth. And in that moment I saw it, the shift. She finally understood this wasn't just a fight. It was the beginning of the end. She didn't say a word the rest of that day. Just drifted around the house like a ghost in heels. By Monday, her mood had flipped again. Back to business casual Elise. Controlled tone, tight smiles, like if she acted normal hard enough, maybe reality would fall in line. But the cracks were showing. She was getting texts constantly, stepping out for phone calls that ended with tense silences and pacing. I'd catch bits and pieces. That's not what happened. Or, I'm handling it internally. I didn't ask questions. I just cleaned the kitchen, paid the electric bill, and took our youngest to practice. Same stuff I'd always done, but this time I wasn't invisible. The first call came Wednesday night. Is this Erin? A man asked. Yeah. Who's this? This is Tom. I'm on Elisa's board. We met once at the holiday dinner. I remembered. He was the one who drank whiskey neat and called it networking. I just wanted to say, he continued, a lot of us saw what went down at the banquet. You didn't embarrass her. You stood up for yourself. A few of us were honestly relieved someone finally said it. I let that sit for a second. Well, I said, better late than never. He chuckled awkwardly. Yeah. Look, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but I thought you should know. She's telling people you're controlling. That you tried to sabotage her career. Of course she was. I thanked him and hung up. That was just the start. By Friday, I had 4 more texts from people I hadn't spoken to in years. One from her old coworker Amanda. One from our kid's former babysitter. Even my old buddy Chase, who moved to Texas, messaged me. Bro, Elise told people you limited her potential? You basically ran the damn house. Everyone saw it. I didn't even reply. I didn't need to. I already knew. I wasn't the one unraveling. She was. That weekend, she cooked a full breakfast and suggested a couple's trip. Just us. No phones. Rebuild things from the ground up. I didn't answer right away. I just opened the folder on my laptop labeled Contributions. Screenshots. Emails. Calendar invites. Credit card receipts for every networking event I paid for. Every course I encouraged her to take. Every sitter I booked so she could attend late-night mixers and industry retreats. She leaned over my shoulder, saw the folder, and froze. What is this? Proof, I said, clicking through. Of the time, the money, the sacrifices. All the stuff you decided didn't matter once the cameras showed up. Her voice dropped. You're building a case against me? No, I said calmly. I'm building a record. Because apparently, the truth needs backing. She pulled away, arms crossed. I already said I wanted to fix this. No, I said, turning to face her. You offered band-aids, vacations, coffee and playlists. You didn't take accountability. You went into spin mode. I'm trying, she snapped. Do you think this is easy for me? Nothing's ever been hard for you. Not when someone else was handling the load. She flinched. Real flinch this time. No act. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she muttered. I just got caught up in trying to hold it all together. I stepped in close, not angry, just done. You're not sorry, I said quietly. You're scrambling. And I walked out of the room, leaving her with the one thing she'd never planned for. Me standing my ground. I was folding towels in the laundry room when Lisa called. I hadn't heard from her in months. Not since she and Elise had their annual vision board brunch back in February. She sounded nervous. Aaron, she said, voice low like someone might be listening. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you two splitting up? I paused. Pretty much. She exhaled like she'd been holding it. Okay, I didn't know if I should call. I feel weird doing this. But, look, I need to tell you something. I sat down on the dryer. Go ahead. She's been talking about leaving you for a while now, Lisa said. Like months. Before the promotion. Maybe even before the interview rounds started. My stomach tightened. She said you were bitter. Lisa kept going. That you couldn't handle her success. That you were clingy and made her feel small. She told us she'd wait until she made it. Then she could step out without backlash. She said that? Out loud. Yes. And she said it more than once. Not just to me. Alyssa from yoga, her stylist. I think even your sisters heard pieces of it. She wanted the timing to look clean. Strategic. I didn't say anything. My throat was dry. Lisa hesitated. I should have said something sooner. I'm sorry. I thanked her, hung up, and sat there in silence. Towel in my lap, fists clenched. So it wasn't heat of the moment disrespect at the banquet. It wasn't fear or nerves or donor pressure. It was planned, quietly, calculated. I started texting. My sister called 5 minutes later. Yeah, she said. Elise made some weird comments at Mom's birthday dinner. I brushed it off, but it felt off. The yoga instructor confirmed it too. So did the stylist. Said Elise joked about being single soon, but not broke. She even laughed. It all lined up. I opened the contributions folder and added a new one, intent. I copied the names, the dates, the screenshots. None of it was dramatic, but it painted the picture clear. That night, I sat her down in the living room. No music, no dinner, no warning. I talked to Lisa, I said. Her eyes flicked up from her phone. Okay. She told me everything. She went still. What exactly did she say? That you've been laying the groundwork to leave me. Spinning a narrative. Planting stories about how I was jealous and controlling. Planning your exit like a campaign rollout. She didn't deny it. Not right away. Just blinked, like her mind was racing to find the right angle. I kept going. I talked to Alyssa, my sister, even your damn stylist. You weren't conflicted. You were just waiting for your moment. Her hands shook. Aaron, you wanted the success story. I cut in. With the clean break. No mess. Just a chapter closed neatly behind you. Tears welled up, but I didn't flinch. I didn't mean for it to go like this, she whispered. It just got complicated. No, I said calmly. You just got exposed. She broke then, fully, sat down hard on the couch, head in her hands, sobbing like it finally hit her she couldn't spin this one. I didn't yell. I didn't touch her. I just stood there, looking down at the woman who used to be my whole world and now looked like a stranger in her own home. You wanted your independence, I said softly. She looked up at me, eyes red, makeup running. Here it is. She moved into a rental across town 3 days after I told her it was over. Didn't say goodbye. Just packed up her things in silence while I took the kids to school and came back to an emptier house that somehow felt easier to breathe in. The divorce took 3 months. She came in swinging. Her lawyer opened with numbers, her salary, her position, her reputation. Tried to paint me as the dependent spouse, like I was just floating on her paycheck. I didn't argue. I opened the folder. Receipts, statements, calendars, my W-2s from the last 10 years. A spreadsheet I'd built showing every vacation we canceled, every daycare bill I paid solo, every time she was out of town chasing a title while I ran point on life. The judge didn't say much, but I watched her lawyer's tone shift after week 2. By the end, Elise had agreed to terms she clearly didn't expect. I got the house, most of the assets, full recognition of spousal contribution. That one stung her, watching her self-made narrative crumble on legal record. She walked out of mediation tight-lipped and pale, gripping her handbag like it was the last thing she could control. She got her freedom. She also got a stack of bills and a nice reminder that brand deals don't cover mortgage payments. I didn't gloat. I just went home and started repainting the walls. It took a few weeks, but I gutted every trace of her style from the house. The abstract art, the gray throw pillows, that overpriced dining set she swore we needed. Gone. I bought a second-hand oak table, cleaned out the guest room, and turned it into a home office. Started lining up contract work. Even opened a small consulting LLC, nothing flashy, just mine. The house got quieter, but not lonelier. One afternoon, I ran into Jake at the hardware store, one of her coworkers from marketing. He spotted me near the sandpaper aisle. Hey man, he said, like he wasn't sure I'd talk to him. Just wanted to say, a lot of us had no idea. I raised an eyebrow. About what? What she was saying, he muttered. You were jealous, manipulative, that you were holding her back. But after everything came out, he scratched the back of his neck. People started comparing stories. It didn't add up. I nodded once. Appreciate it. He leaned in. Honestly, she's not walking around the office like she used to. People see her different now. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I paid for my stuff and left. The truth had finally shown up to the party. A little late, but loud enough to change the tone. And I was done waiting for it. I pulled into the parking lot outside Rachel's office right as she stepped out. Denim jacket, iced coffee in one hand, the other waving at me like she'd been counting down the minutes. She slid into the passenger seat and kissed me without hesitation. No checking mirrors. No glancing around like she needed permission. Just kissed me because she wanted to, and she wasn't hiding it. That was the thing about Rachel. She didn't put on a performance. She didn't curate her life. She lived it, loud and honest. I'd met her 6 months after the divorce finalized. She worked in logistics, ran marathons, and wasn't impressed by titles. She liked me because I listened, because I showed up, because I didn't need a spotlight. Work was solid too. My small consulting business picked up traction, steady clients, steady money. Nothing flashy, just consistent. I was good at it. People noticed. I was happier, healthier, focused. And then last Tuesday, an email showed up. Subject: I owe you this. From her. No attachments. Just 3 paragraphs I didn't need to read but skimmed anyway. She'd been in therapy. She was reevaluating her choices. She deeply regretted how she treated me. Said she understood now. That she was sorry for using me, discarding me, rewriting me out of the life we built. Said she still thought about the banquet. That it was a wake-up call. I hovered over the keyboard for a second. But I didn't reply. Not out of spite. Not even out of anger. Just peace. That mic moment, it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about ruining her. It was the first time in a long time I said something out loud for me. I didn't need to be seen anymore. I'd already rebuilt. Quietly. Fully. I clicked delete, closed the laptop, and turned back toward Rachel, who was telling me about some new client nightmare she just solved without breaking a sweat. She smiled when she talked. Not for cameras. Not for clout. Just because she meant it. And I smiled back. She got what she asked for. So did I.